Welcome to the Bewitching Hour podcast. I am your host, Elle Witchy, and this is my pilot episode for this podcast. And I just wanted to explain a little bit about who I am, what this podcast is about. And for people who have seen my previous podcast, The Witch, the Bitch, and the Sage, if you've already seen and heard this intro, I do apologize. I'll try and make this quick, but I just wanted to give just a general idea of what this is supposed to be about. So, as I stated before, I'm Elle Witchy. I am a practicing witch. I would consider myself a chaos witch who has a focus on hearth, divination, and crystals. So, I would say hearth versus kitchen because hearth is more encompassing, whereas like witchery is about like stirring intentions, baking, cooking, using that kind of magic. Think soups. One of my favorite TikToks that I saw was somebody had mentioned that, like, you can't tell me that soup's not witchcraft. And it absolutely is because you're putting a bunch of shit into a cauldron, you're heating it up, bubbling it, and then eating it. That's a potion. That's absolutely accurate. So the difference between like a hearth witch and a kitchen witch is the fact that hearth has to do with the entire homescape, whereas kitchen is very specific to the kitchen. That doesn't mean that just being a kitchen witch means that you're focused in the kitchen, but again, I digress. So I gather herbs, I gather plenty of plants. I actually have to go and collect violets. That is not unusual for me to stop and grab some shit and be on the lookout for shit. So I have to do that before those die down or until the neighbor mows them away. So that's why I would say I'm hearth versus like kitchen, but kitchen witchery is a huge part of being a hearth witch. Anyways, so that's what it is. I have been a practicing witch for 3 years. I would say like steady daily practicing for about 3 years. I'm known for tarot reading. I do tarot reading. And when I say known, I mean like that's what most people would recognize me from is TikTok. And I'm about to do some more on YouTube, which is where this podcast is. So I've been doing TikTok tarot reading for about a year. So obviously divination. Astrology is something that I'm super passionate about and I think I have like a natural knack for, but I'm not an astrologer and I would not consider myself an astrologer by any stretch of the imagination. But if I've said it once, I've said it a million times, astrology is indeed the backbone of all of this. So that's just my personal views. So yeah, and then crystals. So like I said, tarot would be like my main focus. I love tarot cards. I have tarot cards. I have tarot cards even here. If I've said it before, it's like if we were to consider everybody to be an action figure, me being a witch that's my thing, that's my job, that's my focus. And then tarot cards would be like my weapon of choice. My expansion pack would include my familiar. I love that analogy because I think it sums it up. And that would be everybody across the board. Like you can have your own. So that's why I would say tarot. And then for crystals, I'm huge into crystals, majorly into crystals. I've got crystals of the yin yang, and I chose this one specifically because if I had to say what are my two favorites, it would be flower agate, which is what this is, and malachite. I'm a firm believer. I personally believe that everybody should own a piece of malachite. Just make sure it's real malachite because fake. So see how like malachite, how can you identify fake versus real? So see how there's like depths. It's like, it's really weird to see. So like it's striped, but there's depth to it. So fake malachite looks like painted. So it's like, yeah, it's got the stripes, but it doesn't look layered. So there you go. Quick crystal tip. Also, real malachite might have dark green, but it will never have black. So if you see something that has like stark black on it, it's fake. You already know that. So that's what I would say would be my two favorite crystals. So what do? I actually make spell candles. I can take the spell aspect out of it and I can just make it a nice smelling, pretty candle, and that's fine. But a lot of people don't necessarily want to pay for spell work, and I get it. So what I do is I'll make like these little, I think they're 8-ounce candles. I braid wicks. If I had to say what is the one thing that kind of sets my candles apart from other people is that most of the time people will do a pre-made wick. I braid intention into the wick. So the wax, I melt, I pour. The herbs I've gathered, I've put intention into. The wick I've made, I've braided intention into it. And that's its own spell. So it's like this the candles are chock full of intention spell work. And so that way people can do that in the privacy of their own homes. But I also recommend that you do it outside because there's stuff that can catch fire and they can turn into big fireballs. Because again, these aren't like pretty candles to look at. So that's what I would say my candles would stand apart from somebody else's is do the braiding of the wick. I do customized spell work, so I would do the same thing, but I would make it more of like a taper candle. But the braided wick, everything is very customized and hyper specific for the individual. So I started out again as a witch. The difference between being a spiritual person and a witch is using tools to move energy, whereas spirituality is about using your own intention, your own thought process to make the energy sway in your way. That's the difference between spell work and a manifestation. And I like using the tools and I like trying to shift that shit to my advantage. I'm an empath in that, and this is a term I hate being thrown around a lot because a lot of people say it, but I think it's lost a lot of meaning. But I'm like a true empath in terms of I have felt like I've literally cried. I've cried people's feelings out. I've felt it, everything that's been a big deal. Pre-spirituality, I would have considered myself, and I don't need to be in somebody's shoes in order to understand, like, hey, yeah, this is a big deal and stuff like that. And so I've always been very much like concerned about people's well-beings and things of that nature. But since becoming spiritual, I've realized I'm actually an empath because before I'd be like, I can't. I knew people's energy and stuff, but I didn't actually feel the shit as if it were my own. But now I feel the shit as if it's my own, and that's a crazy wild ride. And very big into trees and plants because those were some of the first things that I realized that I was actually feeling their energy. First time I ever felt that was right beside a big ass pine tree on my property. And the second time was when I was crossing through a doorway. I have selenite above all of my doorways for sussing out negativity. And I felt it, and it felt like a wave. Like it's like literally like that's how energy feels like. It's like it's this wave, it's this feeling. It's like you can feel like it's not linear, it's kind of jaggy. I walked through and I felt like I was walking through a curtain and I couldn't figure out why. And I kept doing the thing like forward, backwards, to the side, to the side. It's like, no, it never changed. So that's when I realized, oh shit, I was feeling the power of the selenite. Awesome. So I would consider myself an empath. So all that to come around here because I just wanted you to have kind of a general idea. I still do customized spell work, candles, the whole nine. You can find me on all the major platforms under Elle Witchy if you want to search for me because I do post tarot readings and other tidbits. And it's all under Elle Witchy. So why podcast? So I'm obsessed with podcasts. Podcasts specifically. I don't actually watch TV, which is a weird thing because there's a shift that happens when you start getting into these kinds of things where like I used to love shows, I used to love movies, the whole nine, and now it's like I've got YouTube going right now with sound bowls, singing bowls because that's just more appealing to me. But I listen to podcasts and I have. So I've been obsessed and I'm like, I really wanted to do one, but only if I had something to contribute. Considering how this is now like my second podcast, obviously, clearly, I feel like I've got something to contribute. And a lot of it is because of, in terms of spirituality and witchcraft and things of that nature, is that there's a lot of misinformation out there. And it's very easy to do misinformation because we don't have a manual to check. There's nothing that says, oh, witchy's right, this one's wrong, this one's wrong, this one's right too. So it's very difficult to debunk things. And for me, it's not about debunking things. It's about debunking methodology. And what I mean by that is that things like the threefold law to me doesn't make any sense. Threes are very important in spirituality. And this is just me. But like I said, anything is from my standpoint because practices should look wildly different for everybody. So like no two people should have the same type of nothing like that because it's just not, it's supposed to be individual. That's the whole point is what works with you, what resonates with you, because there's a whole thing in regards to spirit teams, ancestors, things like that. So it's like the things that like something that may be important to somebody in terms of their journey is irrelevant to me and vice versa. So, and that's not only is that perfectly acceptable, but that's necessary. It's for diversity. It's literally that. No, it shouldn't be a clone. But there's a lot of people out there who will say some things that to me are wildly wrong and actually they hurt the community. So again, like threefold law, hey, whatever you do comes back to you three times kind of shit. I just I can't get behind that. It just doesn't from myself personally, it just doesn't make any sense. So I've heard that. I've heard somebody on here saying like you can't be Christian and a witch, and that's fucking bizarre to me. And I say that as a non-Christian. As a non-Christian, I can't understand. So we're gonna sit around and we're gonna worship Hecate and Loki and Apollo and Ishtar and Ares, and but we're gonna draw the line at Christian faith. That's okay. I just can't get behind that. I think that it's misinformation because you can be whatever the fuck it is that you want, how you want, and I encourage everybody to do if it resonates with you, if it basically sits well with you, roll with it. And if it doesn't, discard it. That's why people say that. It's not about like, oh, hey, you might be wrong when they say like, take what resonates and leave the rest behind. It's not because of that. It's because you may have bits and pieces. That's another thing, just so you know, like a tarot reading, like I will sit through because as a tarot reader, I watch other readers. I love tarot. I love the whole art of it. Sometimes I'll stay to a certain point and it'll be like, okay, well, this kind of goes off the cliff and my gut tells me, all right, scroll. That's because I've received whatever it is that I need for a message. And sometimes it's not just about the whole thing. It could just be a section of it. It could also be confirmation of something else. So that's why people will say, take what resonates and leave the rest behind. It's very, very valid because that's normal. It's normal, especially when you're dealing with signs and synchronicities and things. So I digress. I went off on a fucking tangent. But yeah, so I just wanted to, but basically, there's no experts here in this field, in my opinion. There are a lot of people who have many years of experience and they can rely on their experience and they can use that as a foundation, and that in and of itself should be respected. But literally everybody's opinion is valid standpoint. So this is me trying to contribute to craft and giving my opinion because my opinion's no less valid than somebody who's been practicing for 20 years. And if anything, just like with a lot of things, when people get, not everybody, so I don't want to make this sound like it's supposed to be something that's like a line in the sand kind of thing. But sometimes when you get older, I've heard older practitioners who are just completely jaded with tarot. They've seen the 78 cards a million fucking times and they don't want to see it again kind of thing. So it's like, all right, well, if you start feeling that way about it, it's not a job. This is supposed to be a way of life. If you feel that way, then you probably needed to pivot and do something else, and you've probably taken it as far as it can go kind of thing. But also by the same token, if you're that jaded, you probably shouldn't be trying to do those services for the public. Just throwing that one out there. Or even having I just don't want to, I'm trying to think the best way to put it. Is like, I just don't want somebody's jaded view to jade somebody who's coming up in these types of practices. Because I think that there's a lot of that does happen. Where somebody's like, they're, again, can't be Christian and a witch. It's like, dude, says fucking who? Show me the manual, show me the page. Oh, there is none? There you go, there's your answer. But yeah, so like I said, that's why I want to kind of like come out here and say this, but podcast, that's where you lost me and that's where I lost you. So what I wanted to do is really like the idea of doing something like this as a way of educating myself and the viewer. So like for me, it's like even my own tarot reads, I can get sloppy with them when I'm reading for myself, like just get the gist and move on. And I'd actually started doing collective tarot reading as a way of forcing myself to look at each individual card and figure out kind of how they all interplay with each other because it held me accountable is basically what it is. I had to be held accountable to people who were watching. If there was somebody who would pick up on and be like, hey, like if I was being disingenuous, they were going to pick up on that immediately. If I didn't know what I was doing, they were going to pick up on that immediately kind of thing. So again, it was a way of holding myself accountable. So, I believe that in the world, there's a lot of things that we can't explain. I believe that there's a lot of things that just because you don't know about them, sometimes it's as simple as you don't know about these types of practices or these types of creatures or these types of things. Just because you don't know about them doesn't mean it doesn't apply to you. So I wanted to do some dives into some random ass shit from spirituality. Like, let's do some research, let's dig in, let's find some different sources for lots of things. Basically anything that's like the macabre, the occult, spirituality, just anything in general. Like we're talking like I've got a list of things that I want to do. The first episode is going to be on leprechauns because here we are. It's March 15th and it's about to be St. Patrick's Day, and I'm obsessed with St. Patrick's Day. Not that I go out partying or anything like that, but I love the green clothes. I love the spring. I love the whole essence of it. It to me is a little bit. I like it because it's green. Goes back to the hearth witch type shit. It's very green. It's very green and gold and positivity and abundance and things like that. Where like something like Easter is very much about renewal, pastel colors, the bunnies, the whole nine is like that has its own feel. But there's to me St. Patrick's Day, it just is just a different feel, and I love it. So that's why I wanted to open up with leprechauns. And let me fucking tell you. I thought it was going to be like this simple thing, like I'm going to do this and it's going to be like a regurgitating of some info that everybody has heard. And I actually found some really cool things that aren't, that I didn't know. So maybe you will, I can educate you. That's the whole point. It's like educating myself to try and educate the viewer. So that's when I say being held accountable, that's what I'm talking. But because I'm also very particular about being like, this is what is a fact versus an opinion, because I think that that's where the gray area lies, is that a lot of people take their opinion and use it as fact. Trying not to do that. I'm 44. I'm not a spring chicken. I'm not a little kid. So I understand words have meaning and have power, especially when you're trying to put yourself forward. Even though I'm saying I'm no expert or anything like that, I'm obviously saying, hey, look, I got a nugget of info. So ergo, I'm now in a position of trying to educate people. So I've put authority on myself kind of thing. So I take that very seriously. So that's why I wanted to do this podcast, because I want to know. I want to know. And if I have something to keep me accountable, then I'm going to keep looking for subjects and I'm going to keep diving in. And if anybody has something specifically that they want to know about or would like me to do some digging into, please, please, please feedback. Feedback's super important to me. I can't move forward if I don't have any kind of feedback. So if you like it, tell me. If you don't, also tell me. I'm not a kid. I have a thick ass skin. I can take criticism. I can take a lot of things, so I'm not worried about it. So yeah. So I mean, for the most part, I think that's who it is. I have notes because I have ADHD, in case you hadn't figured it out from this video. Yeah. So, and again, I personally believe that there are certain things that are out in the world that we don't know about, but just because we don't know about it doesn't mean it doesn't apply to us, and also doesn't mean that you're not going to come face to face with it at some point. So maybe there's some information that I can give you that when that happens, you're like, oh, shit, that's right. That chick from the internet, she said this. So that's the goal. Yeah. So again, as I come across random subjects, I have an ongoing list of things that I want to dive into personally. And again, please let me know if there's anything that you would like. That being said, I mean, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to kind of touch up on who I am. I'm in my office. This is my working altar, but I haven't used it because my shit it needs to be outside. So this used to be my working altar. So encouragement, support, and they're both part of my ancestor. But yeah, so I'm about to jump on and record the first episode, which is going to be on Leprechaun. So please, please, please like, comment, share, subscribe. Once I get to 50 subscribers, I can do some lives. I can do some stuff. I could even do I'll probably do some of these things like, hey, here's live, and I'm just going to go through a subject and maybe post it at a later date kind of thing. So, but yeah, let me know. What is it that you want to hear? What is it that you want to see? And let's go on this journey together. So thank you very much and catch me with leprechauns. Bye, guys.